Today I'm going to see if I can make some paper beads out of my air dry clay. Now if you want this recipe, it's free, it's on my website, or you can go to the video where I make it, and it really is a great air dry clay. I'm working on a silicone mat as well because that way it's easier, I can move them a little easier. I want them to look a little bit rustic, but I also want them to have like a glass like finish, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that towards the end. Now some, like this large one, I'm going to drill afterwards. I'm going to do all different sizes. I'm dipping my hand in a little bit of water as well as I'm rolling them, because that way it helps to smooth them off a little bit. And I can also shape them like this. They are going to be all different sizes, because unless I weigh it out, then to be honest, there's no way of me knowing, and I can't be bothered to weigh it out. Now this clay, it works really well, it keeps really well. I made this batch about 2 months ago, and it is still as good as it was when I first made it. As long as you keep it all nice and sealed up, then you can use it for lots of different things. I'm also going to make some square ones, and how I'm going to do that is roll these in between my hands like this, till I've got them nice and rounded, and then push the sides down, square them off. Not a perfect square, I know, but these are rustic beads. For these ones I've made here, I'm going to have to drill once they're dry. But I'm going to try and see if I can poke a wooden stick through and whether that hole will keep on there. Now, I can't actually keep these on this wooden stick because one of the bases of my clay is wood glue. So all that's going to do is end up sticking solidly to this wooden dowel. I suppose I could coat them in silicone. That might help. So this is an experiment. I've not done this before. I'm going to make some flat Pandora type beads as well. And I'm going to fill this whole thing up. And then I'll show you how I'm going to get them to dry much quicker than just leaving them overnight. While I'm rolling these, I want to say a massive thank you to all the people that got me a coffee last month as well. I'm blown away by your support. It's people like you that allow me to carry on doing what I love, because it's been really difficult for crafters on YouTube recently with our views. Don't know why. Maybe it's the time of year. But thank you so much for your support. And if you'd like to support me or buy me a coffee, the link for that is in the description below. And you get your name on my coffee board as a celebration. The other thing I will be able to do with these if I want to is once they are dry, I can give them a quick sand. But I'm not going to, because I want to really ensure that they look quite rustic. I'm going to show you how I decorate them and make them look like they've got a glass coating as well. So I've got them all rolled up, laid on my silicone mat, and I've popped them inside my resinous tumbler dryer. I use this for drying so many different things now. I'll link it in the description below. I will leave them in there for about 2 hours. Then I will check them and then probably put them on for about another 2 hours. And then they should be ready and lovely and dry by tomorrow morning. This is the little door I made for the front. These should be lovely and dry now. I did turn them over halfway through as well and put them in here for 3 cycles of this. And they do sound lovely and dry. Rock hard now. So let's quickly look at the ones with the holes in. Yeah, the hole has come through, but I don't think it's the neatest way of making a hole. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually drill the holes. And what I'm going to use is this. This is my Dremel, and this is my Dremel workstation. And what I will do is I will clamp this so that I can bring this down into the actual beads themselves. So all I need to do is decide whereabouts I want to drill. Look how much neater that is to actually drill them through. And it shouldn't take me long either. It probably only take me about 10 minutes to drill all these beads. And then I'll show you how I'm going to finish them a couple of ways that you can get them to look really glass finished. Well, they're all drilled now and they're lovely and hard and ready for painting. And you can paint them whatever colours you like. I'm going to paint mine in some iridescent colours and some gold. And they paint really, really well because they are very, very solid now. I even drilled through again on the ones where I pushed the holes through to start with, because it neatened those up really nicely. Now, to make the life easier for me when I'm painting them, what I've done is I've got a kebab skewer here and I can skewer them through the hole and then paint them. And that means I don't have to touch them at all. And then when I want to dry them, I'm going to pop them back in here. And all I need to do is leave them like that. It's going to make life so much easier. Now, to stop this actually going all the way down here, what I've done is added a little bit of tape on there. And that acts as a barrier to stop them coming all the way down. And that means I don't have to get my hands on them and mess up all the paint that I've put on them. I've got my little workstation set up now. I've got a cloth to wipe my stick with when I get that really mucky, and all I need to do now is pick up my first one and paint it. Now, it should paint fairly easily. Might help if I had a slightly bigger brush for that one, I think. Start with. That is covering really easily, and I haven't got to worry about touching it. I love the organic shape that it's got as well. Now, you could spray these, you could dip these, you can paint them however you like, but I want to do it like this because to me it's going to be really therapeutic. Just going around doing this and then putting them in there to dry, and once the base coat is dry I can then start to put the decoration on them. So I'm going to do all my base coats. I've got all my colours out here, so all I got to do is wipe my stick, pick up my next bead. I like a nice little flat one. Give me brush, a bit of a wipe out. I think I'll do this one in black. So now we got that one finished. This is running. All I need to do is take that out of there, pop that in there, and put my front back on, and then they'll be lovely and dry by the time I come to do the next coat. We're going to finish painting off my last bead, and then I will pop it in here. So I'm going to leave that in there 10 minutes. Finished painting them all, and they're all dry, and I've actually covered most of them because I forgot to push record. There's a couple of ways that I use, and it gives two similar but different results. Firstly, you can use resin. So I use a UV resin, and I use the high viscosity one because it's nice and thick by J. Diction, but when it covers it doesn't really drip off, where the thinner ones will tend to drip off. I coat it all the way over, and then I use a stick, or you could use a brush or whatever you want to use to spread that all the way over like this. Always pop a bit more on if you need to. Then I give it a few twists around like this to give it an even coating. So now I've got that going round like that. All I do is I turn on my UV light and then I spin it under there for a couple of minutes. I do it sometimes where I put more than one on the stick, and this gives a smoother finish than the next method I'm going to show you, but it still gives a great finish, but it kind of gives it a much more rounder, smoother finish. And then once you've done that and you're sure that that's cured up, you can just give it a check over, give it another twist, and then let that cure up again. And then once you're confident that that is cured up, all you need to do is slide that off the stick and then pop it in a pot. And the next method I'm going to show you, it gives a really nice finish as well. I like both of these finishes. It probably is a little bit quicker, but it doesn't give a smooth finish. So what I've got here is some embossing ink, and this is like the glue that you use for embossing on. Then I put my stick in there. What I'll do is I'll turn on my embossing gun first. So that's getting nice and warm. I have it going over the edge of my table like this. And you can do these quite quickly. What you need is some clear embossing powder. So I'll pop that on there. My embossing glue should still be wet. I'll stick that in like that and make sure it's got a good covering all over. And then I will heat that up until it goes clear. It doesn't take many seconds. Make sure you do the underneath as well as the top. And then once it's gone clear, you can give it another coat by just dipping it in while it's still hot into your embossing powder. That saves having to let it cool down and re-glue it up. Tap it off. And as you can see, that doesn't take very long at all to do. If you want to go for more than 3 coatings, you can. You'll get a much more solid result on it if you use more coatings, but then you're using more powder up. And then what you need to do is leave that to cool down for about 30 seconds before you take it off here. Because what you'll do is you'll touch that, it'll pull off, and it'll burn your fingers as well. We've finished all my beads now, and these are the ones that I did with the embossing powder. And the great thing about the embossing powder is if you want to, you can use solid colours. Like I used the solid silver on this one and gave it 3 coats, and it gives it quite a nice finish. And on this one, I used one with glitter in, and of course, you know what I'm like with my glitter. I think they've all come out quite pretty. I mean, you make them as much as you want with different colours as you like. And these are the ones with the resin. Now, the resin ones do take that little bit longer, but they do give a slightly smoother effect. I've made a bracelet with the resin ones, and that's what that looks like. I think they're quite quirky. I think they're fun and really unique shapes. It worked really well. I was quite pleased with how well it worked. I also made one out of the ones covered with the embossing powder. So you've got 2 ways of doing that. I've enjoyed every minute of this. Hope you've enjoyed watching this. If you want my air dry clay recipe, it's free to download on my website. The link's below, and the whole recipe and details on how to make it are there. And it is brilliant. It works all the time. It's so useful. Check out the video that I've got coming up next on how to use this air dry clay recipe of mine to make a brilliant bowl. Take care. Enjoy your crafting. Bye.